Hey everyone, it's Abdallah, and today I want to have a sort of reactionary video on the Switch 2 release. I know it's been a long time coming, and the rumor mill has been just deep with rumors. So leading up till now, it's been wild. The speculation's been all over the place, and everyone's been wondering when Nintendo was going to actually give out any official news. And it seemed like Nintendo was kind of like really skirting the line of just like waiting, waiting, and waiting to the point where they were sending lawyers to basically like cease and desist third party like accessory creators at CES from talking about the Switch 2. But earlier this week we got some rumors out there saying that Nintendo was going to drop something on Thursday, and Thursday came, and early morning we were shadow dropped with a trailer. Now, I feel like the general consensus so far has been, I don't know. I feel like there's half the people who are like super pumped, and the other half people are just like lukewarm and just like, well, that's it. But I mean, I figured today I'd kind of give my own reaction to the trailer and talk about my own perspective of how I feel about the new handheld and what kind of options that probably going to bring to the table, because they really haven't talked about like software or the features that's going to have outright. So let's dive into the trailer and yeah, we'll see what it's all about. All right, so it looks like the trailer starts up with showing off the original Switch, which is awesome. But then it quickly kind of pans out a bit and you see the screen getting bigger, which is great. I wanted a bigger screen on the Switch in general. My biggest problem with it, though, is that it's not going to be OLED on this iteration, at least from what I've heard. They haven't officially announced it, I think, but still kind of disappointed and was hoping they would at least start with an OLED, but I guess they have to cut costs somewhere. But then it kind of shows off this the USB-C on the bottom and the top, which I think is a great move in terms of like one of the biggest pet peeves of like if you were playing tabletop or anything, you couldn't charge and play on tabletop mode, just because with the charging at the bottom, you couldn't plug it in and lean it on a table with anything. So this gives you the opportunity to be able to do that, but it also gives you the opportunity to charge and use possibly some sort of accessories or anything for that matter if you want to connect to just about anything, or like a USB hub of sorts. And then you start to see like the new controllers, and the controllers are super cool. Like honestly, I feel like I'm glad that they're making them a little bit bigger this time around, and they're giving it a little bit more depth to the triggers. I'm all for that. And I'm really excited for this new addition of like a sensor on the inside of the controller, which is basically allowing you to use it kind of like a mouse setup, which is, oh man, it's genius, because in that case it would be like a game changer in terms of people playing like first person shooters. So like you almost get like a PC experience in a handheld, and or you can even play it on your TV and use the Joy-Con, the controller in that fashion. I would imagine so, at least. And then the same thing with real time strategy games. It makes it easier to play those types of games, because those games on the Switch itself and using a controller is never quite as great as if you were using a mouse. So I'm really glad. Like this is such a cool feature. And then also, like, what if they make like the next Mario Maker, and let's say Mario Music for that matter, like I'm just thinking of all the different kind of games they can make and utilize like a mouse to help speed up like different types of processes or things that you can do. So I'm excited to see what they do with it. I'm excited to see what other like third party use it for. Outside of that, though, looks like we're getting the controllers will be, instead of using the rail system to the Switch, you have the magnetic locks in place, which is fine. I think that's a great addition to this, and it's a little bit more modern feel rather than just kind of like sliding them in. I'm curious to see how strong they are. I'm sure Nintendo has done their due diligence, and it's going to like be strong and good, but we'll see about that. My biggest thing I want to know about these controllers is whether they're using Hall sensors, because honestly, Like this, the drift is real, and I dealt with that myself in terms of like I had to send back a couple of controllers just to get them replaced or fixed, um, due to stick drift and things like that. So I'm hoping they've responded to that in a sense of using Hall sensors, which you don't really get any problems with drift with that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But let's keep taking a look at this. Oh man, but then you get that logo drop, which is the Nintendo Switch 2, with the 2 in like the right corner, top corner. And I think that's like a smart move, honestly. Like I know a lot of people are feeling a bit, I don't know, like underwhelmed by something like that. But at the same time, they were burned so badly with the Wii U release that I think they wanted to really differentiate in the sense of like, this is number two. Like, this is a direct sequel. Like, hey, there's a difference. So I think that's a very big, important thing on their part and in their marketing strategy, that they need to really emphasize that this is a new version of it. And so, you'll get more people to, purchase that rather than purchasing, the original Switch moving forward, thinking that it's the Switch 2. Because I think there was a lot of confusion in terms of that when the Wii U released. So I'm excited for that. But then it jumps into a sweet like view of the first game footage we have of any game on the Switch 2, and that is Mario Kart. And honestly, I'm loving the art direction. I know that it looks like they've changed a little bit of the styling of Mario. It kind of is similar to, I think, Mario Wonder style from what I can see. And I'm really curious to see if they've added like, extra multiplayer features in the sense of like, can you have like 20 people playing at once or something like that? So I'm excited to learn more about that, but there's really not much to go on about this right now, so we'll just have to wait till later. But then it jumps into the next part of the trailer, which highlights compatibility between, backwards compatibility basically between the Switch 2 and the Switch original. And from what I'm gathering, it's basically them kind of covering themselves because it's really hard. I imagine it's going to be very hard for them to test every single backlog of Switch game and determine does it work perfectly on a Switch 2. So they're kind of like just in a way setting themselves up to be like, hey, you know, we know that it's going to, for the most part, work with every game, but there might be some specific situations where you'll run into or it doesn't work. Like it could be some like obscure game on the eShop that hasn't been tested, because this is like slightly new architecture, I believe, in terms of like processor and what it's using from a CPU perspective. So it depends. Some games might have some wonky feel to it. So if they can't test everything, they're going to be a little bit more cautious. So I wouldn't really worry too much because I know a majority of games are going to work great, but you'll always run into the possibility of something might not, work. But honestly, one of the biggest aspects I'm super excited about is their upscaling technology. Because they partnered with Nvidia for the first Switch, and they're continuing to partner with Nvidia for the second Switch, for Switch 2. And we're rumored, the whole, not even rumored at this point, there's patents out there, and they've talked about it that there's going to be some sort of upscaling usage of DLSS. And I'm excited to see what Nvidia has come up with in terms of how they utilize DLSS in the context of the Nintendo Switch. Because if you look at like the PS5, like Sony and Microsoft, right now they use like AMD architecture. So you get a lot of FSR, or now that there's the PS5 Pro, you have this PSSR, which is Sony's in-house kind of like upscaling methods, which is good, but no one really can top right now, as of right now, like Nvidia, in this current stage of like how DLSS works. And so their version of upscaling is just so much more, I want to say more like it's more advanced, and it's a lot better at creating incredible images out of like lower resolution renders. So basically you can render a Switch at like a Switch game at like 720p, and then times that by 4, and you can get to 4K, and it'll be great. So I'm honestly interested to see where things go with that, and whether they're going to be able to port that. Is that something that can like port to previous iterations of the older, basically older Switch games? Because there's a handful, at least to say the least, of games that I would love to replay or play in general, with better, resolution, better frame rates, and all these different things. I think there's a lot of games in the past that would benefit from this. Like, for instance, for me, it would be Xenoblade Chronicles 2, 3, all of them, actually, all the Xenoblade games, honestly. Let's be real. But yeah, like there's so many things that can come from that, and I'm excited to see how that kind of plays into both handheld mode and, um, you know, console like TV screen mode. We'll see how that goes though, and but honestly, at this point, I'm excited, but I'm like just trying to keep my expectations in check. I know there's going to be some great stuff, but at the same time, I'm just it's we got some time. We have time. We have way too much time. I mean, it's going to fly by, but at the same time, I don't want to, sit and just like think about it constantly. So, well, they'll send us information when we get it, and I'm just excited to learn more about the games, learn more about the tech that they're using, more about that mouse mode. What kind of games are what's going to be like the one game that comes out at launch that's going to highlight how, because they always have one game at launch that highlights like their gimmick of sorts, and if it's going to be this mouse mechanic, then hey, I'm excited to see what they do with that. But altogether, I mean, that's my initial reaction, gut reaction to this. I'm looking forward to more, and then I'll probably make more videos about it as things come out. But until then, it's been great, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.